Welcome back to Selling Circular, the podcast where we're rethinking status quo capitalism by exploring innovations in the circular economy. Today, we've packaged a great podcast about the world of reusables and how it's revolutionizing the food service industry. I'm Sabira Lakhani, VP of Product at Reusable.
I'm Gar Punnett, CEO of Loop Layer, and what you heard as we were getting through the re-re-re's of this intro was we were really struggling with some of our R's. And so we were just having a little moment where we needed to collect ourselves and get this intro out. However, this is not our first time doing this podcast, and I hope this is not your first time listening. But if it is, we're thrilled to have you here as a part of our growing community dedicated to advancing the circular economy. The best way to help our growth is to share clips, subscribe, or you'll tell your friends and colleagues about the podcast because we want to help grow this movement. Now, the topic at hand here is imagine you're at your favorite venue for get ready for this, some type of sport ball. So do you have a favorite sport ball, Sabira? Well, generally, when we're going to these concerts or a sport ball venue, instead of getting up and using your single-use plastic cup, you get a reusable cup. And what if it's a cup that gets tossed into a collection bin after you're done for some single-use, guilt-free action? This is the reality that our guest is working on to create that type of structure across North America. From corporate campuses to school districts, from hospitals and airports, the potential of reusable packaging is vast and very exciting. You have a horror story. I have a horror story. Do we talk, single-use horror stories?
Well, I mean, as I worked at a circular economy
Plenty.
waste management firm in India, one of our customers was a stadium, and
Oh,
we had the chance to handle and manage the waste at a cricket event
I
in
do need to go to
Bangalore,
a cricket event.
which is like this is like the largest, the very large, the stadium in central Bangalore in the middle of the city.
It's just,
Um,
again, low-key, the most popular sport in the world that
yeah,
people
we're
don't really
like
realize.
one of the most
Yes.
populated nations in the world.
Yeah.
And uh I mean, the combination of the things being consumed, right, is food items and single-use packaging combined. The horror story is more a, a result of overflowing bins because of
Mm.
the combination of the two. So like we would do a really good job of trying to advocate for separation at the
Source
source,
separation. Yeah, yeah.
but wouldn't always work. And,
Surprise, surprise.
sometimes we would like go digging to like do some after sorting, and then we would have to load things onto the truck, our team. And so it just so happened that upon loading, right, like watermelon juice is coming out of an entire bin of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and then you start to tip over, and then there's watermelons and single use knocking things over. Now it's kind of a hot mess, which is like there is a physicality in dealing with all of the after effects of a sport ball event.
Sport ball venue. Yes.
So they have been covered in watermelon juice, can confirm.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the food items then? I want to hear more.
They
Watermelon's a
would be like
common?
cut fruit. Like it's such a
Oh, yeah. Okay.
fascinating. They do like straight cut fruit, how we do it like in the cups
Yeah,
here
yeah,
that you might find at
absolutely.
Whole Foods, but like they just kind of do it on an open plate. Like so they would try to do these compostable LOL, they're not actually, right?
Yes,
Areca
right.
nut plates. And we would try to collect them and shred them. And because we were the service provider, better than
Yes. Better
not.
than. Yes.
But those would be some of the single use items holding just like fresh fruit. They would do like, potato items. Like they have like some creative stuff. I don't know if you've seen like the swirled potato where it's like
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
dipped in chili, like those kinds of
We're
items.
talking like some classic. Now we're getting like North American State Fair
Yeah.
action here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. There's definitely that. And there's also like private rooms where you get like
yeah.
the buffet, that all of that all of that
All
is
that
there.
still
And
exists.
yeah.
There's something about rotting watermelon juices, or at least that is one of my top 5 least favorite smells, and I have engaged with that multiple times at different roles. Um, my first role being in the food service industry, cutting up watermelon, so I'm very familiar.
Traumatizing.
Yes, it is
Oh,
traumatizing. Yes.
triggering.
Yeah, mine very simply too. Another sporting arena. On my end, a little bit differently. There's just been times where been caught. I generally try to not engage with single-use type of food vendor activity, but you're at a game, you haven't eaten all day. I'm starting to get hungry. I don't like being cranky and hungry. Or at least hangry. And that was ultimately some of the most waste I've ever dealt with, especially this past year. Let's say 2024 was at the Cubs Stadium. Sorry to call them out. They're working on it. We've got some Illinois mandates here that are going to change that. But it was a bag, and then it was plastic in the bag. Then it was the boat that was holding the item, and some of those might be compostable, some of them say they're recyclable, but ultimately your options dwindle as you're looking for where to put these. And these are the types of decisions, though, that we really do need to take out of the hands of the consumer, and especially in a closed environment. And we're going to make this point coming up in the episode, but we've got a good one coming up.
We're thrilled to have Jocelyn Quarrell, co-founder of Bold Reuse, join us today. She is at the forefront, along with her organization, of transforming these systems and turning a single-use system into a closed-loop packaging solution for her stadium customers. And Jocelyn brings a wealth of experience from her background in sharing systems. She worked at Zipcar and Alta Bicycle Share. So she's got that model kind of like in her bones. So join us as we explore how Bold Reuse is changing the game in stadium sustainability, navigating complex stakeholder relationships, and scaling their operations across the continent.
Just like that, jumping in at the end of our season. So we'll be back
Closing
soon
it
with
out.
another 8-episode season for season 5 coming up. So thank you for joining us this season, and we look forward to engaging more digitally. Enjoy.
Season 4.
Yes.
Woo!
Hey, listeners, we have another Edit Bay comment here on the upcoming interview with Jocelyn Quarrell of Bold Reuse. You're going to find me coming in a little bit hot on the volume. It's going to be a little loud. I got a little excited, but I wanted to give you at least a heads up just so that you would know to maybe turn it down or not jump out of the bus seat that you're in. Thank you. Enjoy the interview. Thank you for joining us, Jocelyn. Thank you for joining us from Bold Reuse. We're so excited.
Hello.
Listeners, I'm going to let you in on the joke here. Again, can't seem to get my head out of Build Reuse, which is a wonderful nonprofit organization focused on deconstruction.
It is.
That's not who we're talking to today.
No, I'm
We
gonna
get to
help
talk
you
to
out.
Bold Reuse. Well, again, I appreciate that, and it's embarrassing
love
that
the
I can't
pin.
can't seem to get that through. But it's bold and it's neon and it's great.
It
So
is.
I love the coloring. I love the design choice.
Thank you.
Maybe we can actually talk about this right off the bat, which
Yeah.
is this was not always your name. You went through a little bit of a rebrand a couple years ago.
Yes.
Could you talk about that, a little bit of that process and what that was like in what you all do? And you pivoted into talking more with a brand that boldly talks about what you're doing.
It is.
I would love to start out there.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, our brand is very much meant to be an invitation, right? And an encouragement, a call to action. It took a while for it to come together. And if I could provide just a bit more backstory.
Absolutely. Yes.
Prior to being Bold Reuse, we were GoBox. And GoBox was a company that was actually started all the way back in 2011 by a woman named Laura Weiss. In Portland, Oregon, and she was working to connect corporate offices and local food cart pods, which we have so many of here in Portland, and they're really cultural, like special cultural places. So she was connecting those two entities around a sharing system of reusable containers. So it was very much a B2C play, but with a little B2B mixed in as well. Laura was later in her career, her husband was looking to retire and move out of state, so she put her business up for sale. I had been building my career in mobility sharing systems, so I had the opportunity to work for Zipcar early days in their Boston headquarters. moved to Portland working with Zipcar, and then had the opportunity to move into Alta Bicycle Share, launching bike share systems all over the country. Loved that experience. Got to learn so much about sharing systems and stakeholder engagement and how you make everybody work well together, and really trying to push a sustainability service without sustainability being the primary value. It's just like, you got someplace to go, we want to help you get there. And if it helps the environment in the meantime, awesome. So that's where my mind was and how I was building my career. As I mentioned, Laura posted her business for sale. I saw it. This was in late 2017. I was feeling motivated to do something about waste in that moment. So I bought the business, kept it as a B2C entity for a few years. But the pandemic really, really impacted how we were operating at that point in time. Despite that challenge, new opportunities presented themselves and kind of helped see this market shift from a B2C play more to a B2B play. My co-founder, Heather Watkins, joined the business in 2022. And then we really, leveraging her vast experience in brand marketing and growth. She was most recently the head of growth for Impossible Foods. We really committed to the B2B pivot. And so we wanted our brand to more accurately reflect that, and like literally drop the box as well, because that was giving some people, just a little bit of challenge. We're like, oh, we're talking about things other than boxes now. And they're like, wait, but boxes in your name. We're like, okay, we'll change our name then.
I love that irony of being boxed in, yes,
I
to
know,
from a
exactly.
container perspective. Yes.
So now it's bold reuse, and that's how we are presenting our solution and working with our clients and communities, and really, again, trying to have it serve as a call to action.
That's amazing. So now that you're more B2B,
Yes.
tell us, who are your customers? I feel like there's a hint of sports involved. So who
Yeah,
are they and how do they use your product?
sure. Primarily, we're talking to enterprise food service organizations or enterprises. These are venues that are serving a high volume of food and beverage, and more often than not, it's being consumed on site. So we're really focused on those closed loop opportunities where there's environments, right, that we can control and innovate on and make improvements to, and let that lead the implementation and the opportunity, and rather than trying to focus on consumer behavior change, which is literally impossible to do, we focus on changing the environment and just making it easy and fun for people to make this transition. So all of that, everything that fits under that umbrella is what we do for these enterprise food service organizations.
And so in my head, that does lend itself to stadiums, larger venues.
Yes, of
Which
course.
ones am I missing out? When you look at the spectrum of food service venues,
Yeah.
it's not just stadiums. There's other partners that maybe I'm not thinking of. What do those look like?
Sure, yes. But you're totally right. Sports stadiums is kind of a hot thread for us right now. So we're really
I
excited
love
to
it.
be,
Well,
yeah,
and it
expanding that
speaks to
space.
that controllable environment that you can provide the choice, that almost that golden path for the
Totally.
consumer.
Yeah.
And then there's very little choice in the matter. And so it's just what they're provided. Yeah.
And you're wrapping it into an improved experience as well. And you're messaging it that as such. And then you're messaging that you're part of this community initiative and effort, and your neighbors are a part of this too. And then sports are just, frankly, just a sexy environment as well to introduce change. And they're there for it. Like, they're excited to be interacting with new things in those environments. But beyond sports stadiums, we're talking about corporate campuses. We're talking about school districts. We're talking about hospitals. We're talking about airports. We're talking about there's so many more that are like not coming to my mind. But yes, these large spaces where, yeah, events, festivals, yeah, amusement parks. Holy cow, I could go on and on.
Amusement parks. Wow. I just thinking about maybe paint a picture for us on the actual system, the closed loop system,
Yeah,
because when you were talking about sports, I went to the US Open, and like one of their fancy things is that like glass gray
for sure.
goose. That's a vodka glass, right? Like
Yeah.
that is like the take home prize
Mm-hmm.
for that you pay a
Mm-hmm.
premium for going to the open. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how does that work in your system? Is it really closed loop? Is there churn and attrition because people are taking stuff? And how do they actually engage and return? I'm assuming we're talking about like a return system in some
Yeah,
way.
of course. Yeah, for sure. That's totally our model is a systematic approach, right, to eliminating single use waste, leveraging reusable packaging, and again, trying to make it very easy and convenient for all of the stakeholders. So not only the consumers, but also for the venue staff and back of house and leadership and everybody. So how it works, how bold reuse works with these types of customers is well, first we'll meet with them, we'll discover, what their challenges are, and what we're really learning is more so than a sustainability solution, which is our North Star. Like our goal is to reduce impact through reusable packaging. But what we're uncovering is that there's a lot of challenges related to packaging in general for these organizations. Like single use packaging procurement is hard, it is a complex landscape full of price volatility, supply chain disruption, inventory mismanagement, operational needs, customer wants, and then regulatory compliances as well. And procurement teams are trying to balance all of these needs, and plus what's the most sustainable option as well. And it's hard for them to do all of this. So what we're learning is that that is what we need to solve for, is all of that, as well as the sustainability. So as I was mentioning, we meet with our clients, we understand what their challenges are related to packaging. We help them identify and source durable packaging, and whether that's a cup or like a boat, like a foodware sort of option, plates, bowls, silverware, right? It really spans the gambit. We are focused on food contact surfaces, but even anything from um, like a gel pack that you might find in your local Misfits market, like direct to consumer grocery delivery, we wash and sanitize those as well. So again, we help our clients identify what their needs are, find a reusable product that will supplement, and then we procure that for them. We help prepare it, launch it, make inventory management super easy. Messaging, communication at launch. We are really collaborative partners with how this comes to life in the environments that we're launching into. And training for back of house staff, from the bartenders to the environmental services team. But and this sounds complicated, and I don't mean to make it seem like it is not. But our approach is, again, ease, and we do that through trying to replicate their existing experience with single-use packaging as much as possible. So they're used to receiving cases of single-use cups on their loading dock. We're delivering cases of reusable packaging to their loading dock. It's just so happened to be wrapped in recyclable paper instead of plastic, and the cases are reusable totes instead of cardboard boxes. They're easy to distribute around the facility. After the event or during the event, Environmental Services is pulling liner bags from the waste streams, just as they have always done. They're putting those those bags of used dirty cups on the loading dock, just as they have always done. And then our team is going to those loading docks. We're collecting it. We're backhauling the cups and products to our localized wash facilities, where we process them through a quality control, wash, sanitize. They're dried, and then the cycle starts anew. And then at every touch
Talk
point,
us through.
a ton of data and sharing that out to our clients as well, and inventory management, again, all of that other value add stuff that they need help with, and frankly, reusable packaging makes it easier than
Yes.
single use. So
Well, and that's where sort of I was going to lead, is around that data piece, because data is huge, the economics are huge.
yeah,
Maybe a two-part question here.
sure,
How is your ability as a company to communicate the value
yeah,
evolved and then coincided with maybe an evolution of the brand itself in rethinking their own waste streams? And
absolutely.
those have clearly met. We've seen some good news from you all recently, and it
Mhm.
seems to be that there's a real meeting of these two priorities. Could you talk about that evolution? And as much as you're willing to share about how the economics work from your standpoint and then from the client standpoint.
Sure. Let me write my notes here.
And this is a true professional, everybody. What you can't see in the video on the video side is she's writing the question to be able to revisit it if she needs to. Absolute pro. Yes.
Well, thank you. Yes, and thank you for recognizing the value proposition has to evolve. Like, we have been working to find product market fit. We are a startup. We don't know what we don't know. Our clients know. We need to stay hyper close to them.
Well, and let me challenge that real quickly.
Sure.
They know a
Status
lot.
quo.
They maybe don't know what they don't know, and that's always too where you all come in and then you
Totally.
get to help too. So that's my only challenge is that
No,
you're
that's
exactly
fair.
right. But sometimes the clients are more open than they even think they are to change in that way.
There's no doubt about it, and we see that in action. Like, it was hard to get the first stadium over the line. We needed to prove the model. We had to give people a case study. We heard from folks that, like, we honestly didn't even think that this was possible. And I lovingly was like, you need to work on your imagination. And then also, like, what we're doing is a rocket science. It's just, identify a problem, identify ways that we can solve that problem, try things out, what work, what doesn't work, and then find another problem to do that process over and over and over with. So yeah, I mean, and that is how we approach our clients. We try to be really humble about it and say, like, we don't know all the answers. This market is changing rapidly. Consumer demands are changing rapidly. Operational needs are changing rapidly. That's what makes all of this so complex. So we're not going to promise you perfection from day one. That's impossible, but we're going to promise you vigilance in constant innovation and constant problem solving and doing it in a collaborative way, and being really transparent about that whole process. So
what I love in that is it does speak to a relationship.
Oh, big time.
And
Yeah.
on their end, what I would imagine, if I were to project maybe, is the status quo system has probably gotten to a place where it's so us and them that it's like, oh, I just dropped this off and then it's your problem.
It's completely transactional. Yeah.
It's completely transactional. And this has to be seemingly a healthier, innovative approach to that collaboration that I bet more and more stakeholders are enjoying in that process.
Yes, and the ripple effects of it. So now we have clients in different markets talking amongst themselves too, to like figure out how we work at another level, right? And just keep leveling it up. And that's the dream of the circular economy, I think, is like to put all of the puzzle pieces together and let the web sort of organically, from my perspective, from a free market perspective, like it has to figure itself out. But like there are committed people working on that every single day. So. Should I talk
circular
about
economy
that?
web.
I know.
I'm into yes. I'm interested in the economics part of that too.
Let's dig into that. So the way we make money, we have 3 revenue streams. The first is through operations. So these are things like the reverse logistics, the service visits that we're doing. It's a per basis, sort of per visit, depending upon the level of service that we're providing these clients. And a note on that is when we first started, we were just doing like pickup and delivery. Now we're finding a bunch of other ways that we can support our clients, such as like sorting, other aspects like that. Sorry to get a little off track, but so the operations, reverse logistics, and the sanitation, that also is a per item, and it's a range depending upon the size of the item, like how efficiently can we wash these things. And then we have a software subscription for our client portal that they can use to manage their system, learn all the stats about their system, all that good stuff. And then our wraparound professional services to support implementation and expansion of these programs. So all that other training, messaging, marketing, good stuff that we bring. And we really want the per unit costs for the washing in particular to be as cost comparable to single use as possible. And frankly, that's getting easier and easier to do. It really depends on what they were already working with, right? It's very easy for us to be competitive against a Ball single-use aluminum cup or a compostable cup. Styrofoam is a little bit harder, but regulatory compliances are helping with that. We're seeing more and more states ban styrofoam, and so they're forced to make a decision. And we're seeing more and more companies decide to jump across all of the options that are more well known to have, not be the silver bullet solutions that they have been sold as in the past, and jumping right into your reuse, which is super fantastic. And then a lot of the ROI to, cost equation comes down to volumes as well. But I can share that, and return rates and all this good stuff. At the end of the day, what we're seeing is for a venue like a sports stadium, the cost differential in the first year to switch to reusables from single use is within $10,000, which, in their perspective is nearly a rounding error in the grand scheme of things. And then even more, what really captures their attention is this cost differential plus all the additional value we're getting from bold reuse that we don't get from single use, and from their disposal partners, although they perform necessary services, right? Really our one-stop shopping solution. We can provide support to address all of these upstream and downstream solutions for you. And again, it's pretty cost comparable. And then the final thing to say about the economics is, we at Bold Reuse really take, we take the back seat in these programs as the operators and as the supporting role to our clients and our clients' customers, who are the real champions here, the ones that are making the change, going through that process. And so we don't put our name or our branding on these assets. They're in fact owned by our customers. So it's not a rental model. They procure and we help them procure those cups. They own them, and then they can customize it specific to their venue. Hopefully not their team. We have seen higher loss rates when the cup is reflective of more of a souvenir cup, right? And we've just been trained on that. It's no, customers will learn, but they've been trained on souvenir cups. So try to keep the team logos off of the cup, try to keep it super utilitarian, just focused on the stadium, and potentially, whether on the asset or just in the surrounding marketing, find a sponsor to bring some revenue to this program, cover the cost, and get some, not greenwashing, but real green credibility to support an active, in their hands, opportunity to connect authentically with a lot of people. And we have some great partners that are helping to make this happen. This is one of them. So we've been working with Pepsi across a few different venues. Super simple cup, and customers can see the QR code to learn more. These are not deposit return models. There's no necessary technology interaction here. Our implementations are, you order a beverage, it comes in a reusable cup. When you're done with that cup, you return it to a return bin or leave it at your seat, just like you were doing with your single-use cup.
You answered so many of my questions. I was going to ask about if the stadium owns the cup, so thank you for answering that. And
Yes.
then also, if the customer is faced with a choice and they're not, you force the reusable cup, because that's where you were talking about being in a closed system.
Yeah.
Is that they don't need a takeaway cup, really, right? They just have to drink with it. So, but then the delta is, before, if you bought a bottle, soda bottle, that you would be able to take it off site and finish it off site, and that's the only kind of trade-off I think is happening. But I
Sure.
love that you're forcing the customers to make a choice. Have you
Well,
seen
force
customers
is
be
a harsh word. I like to think of as offering.
nudge, yeah, we nudge. But have you seen the customers just get on board because the decision is made for them?
Yeah, I think there's because this model is really accessible to anybody that goes into these venues, we get a wide range of feedback and, questions, concerns, curiosity. Overwhelmingly, people get it. They're excited about it. They're excited to be a part of the solution. Some folks need some extra nudging on the education front. They're like, cool, a recyclable cup. And you're like, yes, eventually, but not immediately, right? Like, it's just like a cup at a restaurant. And they're like, oh, and you're like, yeah, just like that. Just like a cup at a restaurant. So, um, and then there are, a very, very small percentage of the population that is rightfully, asking questions about sanitation, or, material selections, things like that. And we're here to answer those questions and make sure that they feel comfortable. The haters are going to hate. That's fine. We don't like, you can't please
Don't
everybody.
don't cater to the haters. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Well, that actually speaks to I had a moment that I loved. I'm in my reuse bubble, and maybe we all are. I was
especially
getting my
like,
hair, yeah, I was getting my hair cut yesterday, and I was talking to my barber about our episode today that we were talking to you about reuse, and he didn't quite understand the concept, and he wanted to know a tangible thing, and I brought
mhm.
up the cup. He immediately had that ick factor response, and I immediately said, well, we sort of walked through the options here, and I was like, well, you're using a brush, a comb that you use on everyone else's hair. What do you do with that? And he's like, well, I sanitize it. I'm like, exactly. You got it. And then we exactly went into your restaurant example, and it was like it was fun again being in my bubble. It was fun to see the light bulb go off, where it was like, oh, totally. This is not different. This is not unusual. It's just maybe different than the normal stadium environment. And so then I got to tell him about a new partnership that you all have with the Bears and I think it's Keurig Dr. Pepper. And it was
Yes.
like, this is going to be an option for you to try and you will get to see this. And he's like, okay, I'll go. I'm excited to go try it. But it was fun to see that response.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love that. I love that. And I think it speaks to whatever and we're so, we are products of our environments. We have been led to believe anything wrapped in single-use plastic is more sanitary. But and not that they don't serve a purpose. Again, I'm not like anti-recycling. There's a time and a place for different materials and products and like options here. But like I haven't been able to uncover a single-use packaging manufacturer that sanitizes their products post manufacturing prior to like shipment here even. So um, but like their concerns are valid around sanitation and that we can address them so quickly and provide them with like real life examples and that they immediately are like, like that they can switch so quickly, I think that's a silver lining for me. And
What
that
part?
community is across the country too. I want to make
Yes.
share because we're operating in Kansas City, and we're soon to operate in Charlotte, North Carolina, hot off the presses. Excited to be expanding even farther east. We'll be coast to coast. But like, to be frank, this is not a red or a blue issue. Nobody likes garbage. It affects everybody negatively. And so, normalizing it and providing people like, again, making it clear this is better. This is a better option. Why would you want to drink a beer out of a throwaway garbage cup when you could be provided with a nicer option? Not this flimsy thing where you're like spilling around and stuff, or it's like this is a better drinking experience at the end of the day. Even if you're not in it for the sustainability, you don't have to be.
Yeah. And I love the confidence with which you're saying that. It's not just it's the experience that is in your hand and the experience behind the scenes too. What you're talking about, taking on the burden of sanitizing and not uh, requiring the stadium to take on that
Yeah.
infrastructure, right? You're allowing the end customer to own the item and the asset, but you're taking on the operational burden and service
Yeah.
of doing the sanitization so they don't have to worry about it. And then the
Yeah.
end customer definitely doesn't have to worry about it. But
Yeah.
that model is really fascinating to me. And I think, in my humble opinion, has been like one of the challenges of bringing circular programs in any system is who's going to own what part and who's going to do what part.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how did you end up thinking about like why did you decide that the stadium does own the cup versus bold reuse, and why you don't make them invest in the infrastructure and you do the per unit like sanitization price? How did that thinking evolve?
Sure. Thank you for that question. It's a good one. So our business model in terms of encouraging them to own it really came down to careful market analysis of like, how could we make this economically viable? Um, and provide for that sponsorship opportunity, and them owning it. There's higher upfront costs, but not always equivalent to what they were already spending at the beginning of their season to procure, 2 million plus of different sizes cups and different types of materials and all of that. Instead, now we can be quite clear on this is how many you need. Like, we get down into the weeds with them. Show us your sales numbers. Let's get really clear on how many you need. Let's be realistic about a return rate that will ramp over time, giving customers the opportunity to learn and get on board with what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then through our inventory management, we know precisely how much we have, where it lives, where in the cycle it lives. And then we can provide basically just-in-time inventory delivery. So we're even reducing the volume of space that they have to dedicate on site for storage of these products. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, them owning the asset is a far more long-term economically viable model in our perspective based on our research. I know other companies take different approaches, and there's no one size fit all here. We're still figuring this out, so more power to them, but this is what we're finding is working really well. And then in terms of the infrastructure, like you would think a massive stadium has space for a dishwasher. They do not. They do not. I mean, one of the perks of my job is getting the opportunity to tour all of these amazing stadiums and places. And as a sports geek, and I've always been an athlete, I like love it, love it. In fact, my very first job out of college was with the Boston Celtics, so this is almost like a full circle moment for me. But like you walk through Soldier Field, you walk through the Moda Center, you walk through even brand new constructed facilities like KPKC Stadium in Kansas City, brand new stadium. There's no space for a dishwasher. There's no space for anything other than what they have already outlined and like have lines on the floor for. And it is like, it's a war, like don't get in anybody else's space. Like it is tight in there. And they also have challenges with their workforce and labor as well. At the end of the day, it's just different for us hiring a team of folks to perform reuse services vis-a-vis dishwashing versus a stadium or a food service organization putting up a job posting for a dishwasher. Like it's a different opportunity for a different type of person. And so we don't have those same labor challenges either. So again, like off-siting all of that, putting it out of sight, out of mind, not forcing any changes to their venue or to their work team or their operational flow. It's been really, really important. It has been really hard, to figure out the service part of this business is the hard part of reuse, making it economically viable. But we've unlocked profitability across a couple of our warehouses. So there's a clear line of sight here to good business, good environmental impact, good relationships with stakeholders. We just need to keep accelerating it. So.
Well, that then, I'm curious then, that again speaks to the evolution of how you've been able to sell this.
Yeah.
And when we talked earlier about the sort of the multi-cost package of essentially you've line itemed out what things cost and why. How did that evolve into the pitch of what you were, and how is that in comparison to what they were already doing? So when you were saying a little bit of SaaS here, operational cost there, how did you get them on board for understanding the value that you're giving and then what you're asking for a fee?
That's a great question. It's an evolving process,
Yeah.
right? Because one of the challenges, it depends on who we're working with. Stadiums have a lot of stakeholders. Who owns the stadium? What teams are involved? Like sports teams, who's the food and bev concessionaire? Who's the environmental services vendor? All of those stakeholders we have to get on board, and we have to try to get creative about who's sharing cost for what. to hopefully sort of reflect what they were currently paying for what they were currently getting, right? So in most instances, the food and beverage concessionaire is sort of owning the cost for procurement and in some capacities disposal as well. So that is who we're really forging, getting these contracts with. And then often it's the team maybe or the stadium purchasing the inventory. So they take on that cost. And then the food and beverage concessionaire is paying for the use of the items over and over.
So, okay, so it was already a complex sales motion. Now it's just saying, hey, we're actually going to go this direction. And everyone's used to the complexity already. This wasn't new and different anyway. You're just then providing a whole new premium sort of experience and solution to reuse. So, okay, that's not too difficult then to follow. Yeah.
I mean, it's not too difficult to identify how complex a sales cycle is.
Yes,
A
totally.
major sports venue.
I always get into trouble saying not too difficult. Yeah.
It's a lot of horse trading. And then you
Yeah.
get sponsors involved too, which is another
Right. Yes.
stakeholder. But the cool thing is everybody is we want to be here. We want to be having this conversation. We want to figure it out. So let's just do that. And now we have master service agreements with companies like Levy Restaurants and
I was
Aramark.
going to get to Levy. Yep.
So that really helps to streamline things because, to their credit, they're the folks really operationalizing these systems. And they have not been resistant to the change. We try to make it as easy as possible, but it does require some rethinking. And they've been very open to that and really transparent and collaborative partners. So it's been a joy working with them.
I mean, that's really cool to hear. I think that coming into the circular economy world, especially starting in waste management and now we're trying to do furniture reuse, this learning of the behind the scenes vendors that have to collaborate to make a system work is truly mind blowing, right? This the capitalism drive to get the best deal from outsourced labor and service providers creates kind of this weird nest, right? Of people who are on the same team, but actually don't have necessarily aligned interests. And so it sounds like it's going well for you, but I'm curious, this group's point of view is more, I'm thinking out loud here, what would it look like if a stadium didn't outsource all of their services and they chose to own everything end to end for for running the whole thing instead of having to make all these vendors kind of play nice with each other to deliver what's best for the customer? Would the outcome be different? You describing how you're winning the contract and winning the end customer is such a piecemeal story, even though it's working.
Today.
So I don't know, thinking out loud, what would could it look different?
I mean, I think, and I want to make sure that I caveat everything that I'm saying in this conversation. It is November 15th, 2024, and tomorrow it'll be different. So, again, there is a lot of stakeholders you have to get on board, but they're willing stakeholders. And I see your point that there is a kind of a pressure for a race to the bottom and everybody is trying to protect their best interest. I don't know. I mean, I'm an Aquarius and an eternal optimist, but I'm just starting to see in real life and communities across the country a real desire to do better, acknowledgement that status quo isn't working. Maybe it's working from a convenience perspective, but in every other way, it is failing us. And if there is a free market opportunity that adds value and could save money and all of this other stuff, even if it's not immediate, let's put off the immediate gratification just for a year, maybe just one annual cycle to work through this and figure it out. So I think the complexities around stakeholder engagement will get easier as people are more familiar, as they see more case studies, as they interact with reuse more in real life. But to your question about internalizing it, I mean, I think that they would see it would be it would be more expensive, right? Because they would only ever be able to unlock the economies of scale to their venue. the benefit that we have as a regional service provider is that we can work with all volumes from all of the big ones across the region and really start to unlock those economies of scale when it comes. And that's for this transition to work, that is really necessary. That is really necessary. But that's such a great question
Yeah,
and
I
thought.
love that. Makes so much sense. And
Yeah.
that's where you also get to like develop a niche, develop an expertise, and deliver that excellent service that the stadium might not be able to actually hone and deliver to their end customers because they would have one of 1,000 other things to do.
That's
So
it. I mean, they're
that's a
pros in
really
their
great
own right
point.
with what they do. So like they're like
Yeah.
whipping up amazing food in this tiny little kitchen for like 20,000 people over the 4-hour period. Like y'all focus on that. We got you on the packaging front. Don't worry about it. So,
How far away are we from a brand sponsoring the cups for 4 different stadiums in a city so that there is this almost city scale economies of scale?
mm. I really like the way that you position that question to be like, okay, private companies like help kind of support
Step up.
the, yeah, proliferation of this. Um, I mean, hopefully soon. My fingers are crossed. We have
Yeah.
some interesting conversations in the works. I think that you know, sponsorship is an economic argument that we need to make as well. What is the return on this investment? Um, our implementation at the Moda Center here in Portland with the Trailblazers is sponsored. It's sponsored by Eco Products, which is
Huh.
a compostable packaging company, but they are like the sustainability
Yeah.
sponsor for the whole stadium. And then we're actually we have a great working relationship with Eco Products. They're a team that sees the future and like they're realistic about it. And then they're a sister company to Waddington North America, which is a domestic products manufacturer that actually makes a lot of the cups that we're using right now. But that's an example of like a in market sponsor. What we'd really like to see is out of market, like non-endemic sponsors supporting folks like Visa, folks like Delta, like who other brands can I shout out and encourage them to contact us and talk about sponsorship opportunities.
United in Chicago for any
Yeah,
other
right?
stadiums
I
that
mean, again, this is an example of an endemic brand, like a beverage company sponsoring a beverage cup that makes sense, but like
right.
clearly Pepsi and Dr. Pepper, and we're working with Coca-Cola now in the Moda Center. They see the opportunity to authentically connect with fans. Again, 20,000 people in their hands, like in front of their faces,
Well,
interacting
what I
with products.
what I love about that is even you holding that cup, seeing a logo, it
Yeah,
is inherent FOMO for other brands. And I think that's kind of nice. Yes, is
totally.
it's like, oh, we need to be a part of this movement, this wave that's coming. How do we do this? And there's
That's right.
urgency to action.
That's right.
And the opportunity is huge, right? You have nationally occurring all different kinds of sports, all
Yeah.
different kind of stadiums, and
Yes.
that's just one slice. Like you mentioned, airports and
Yeah.
different event venues. So people are gathering at scale in so many different places where there are closed systems where you could kind of you basically get that B2C impact
You
in
do.
these like moment in time events, which is really cool.
It is.
You already started to get optimistic with like who might sponsor you. What else tell us a little bit about like where you see the future of your
Mm,
business heading and what are you excited about?
thank you so much. I mean, we're hitting a high note right now, which has just been so many hard years of work in the making. You know, we're a women-owned business. We've been capitalization challenge. We've had to be really resource efficient. We've had to be really gritty AF and figure this out. But like we are feeling really confident about our product market fit. We're really feeling confident about our relationship driven approach, our reputation, experience and history of success implementing these programs. And so we are just we're really like inbounding so many opportunities right now, which is a really good position to be in. In the next 5 years, we see ourselves in 25 to 30 hubs located across North America. We are focused on North America right now. I think there's global opportunity. We'll see. Certainly global events though, talking to folks who are putting together FIFA parties or Super Bowls or All-Star games or the Olympics, like all of these really amazing big events coming up. So that's our approach, and with a immediate focus on closed loop as we've been discussing, but our background, our history, and we have some experience in open loop as well. We're actively working with Starbucks. We worked with Loop, the TerraCycle partner sister company, for their implementation in the Pacific Northwest and in Arkansas with Walmart. So we have experience in open loop. We need the market to mature. We need more regulations to support. But if we spend the next couple of years really focusing on building out the necessary infrastructure such that then a national chain needs to transition, we're going to be like, hey, we got you again, coast to coast. Like, where do you want to start? And then we can just keep rolling it out. Of course, 25 to 30 locations aren't going to be able to support the entire, every location. And to that end, we really have a vision for franchising opportunities where we can package up our solution and empower local entrepreneurs in secondary and tertiary markets to bring this solution to life in their community and be a part of this winning story and solution, and then allow the Starbucks of the world and the Taco Bells of the world to have even further market penetration into those markets too.
I'm going to round us out then here.
Right.
You did say, before I do that, you did say AF in there, and it reminds me of my favorite Department of San Francisco bag, reuse bag, that they always,
Yes.
on the bag, it says, reuse is sexy AF, and their little caveat is and fashionable. And so I always love, I think it's such a bold bag for an official department of San Francisco to make. And
Yes.
so, yeah, so bold reuse, sexy AF.
Thank you. We're
Yes.
trying every day.
Yes. Yes. I've gotten so much hope out of this conversation again towards what our infrastructure looks like to support reuse, to support bold reuse for organizations. What gives you hope in what you're seeing? We are entering maybe an era that we don't have to talk too much about, of not as supportive policies potentially, not as supportive environment for reuse and environmental movements. What gives you hope in that as you're constructing this business that is providing that solution?
Yeah. Thanks for that question. Inherently internal optimist, but when I'm talking to my team and to our stakeholders, our investors and mentors, I mean, first things first is we've never been reliant on federal funding. So that's good in this moment. And what we have been relying on and is working for us is a true free market solution, like solving problems for people and being able to generate revenue from that and provide green jobs and like an opportunity to continue to bring the solution to market. I don't think we'll see a ton of backsliding in this space. In some of the conversations I've been having with folks, the question I like to ask is like, do you imagine Amazon pulling back on its EV Rivian fleet because of this shift of course, no. And why? Because it differentiates his business, consumers like it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think sustainability, not full bore, but like that space that we're focused on and many other spaces as well. Like it is a free market solution that we just need to be focused on that right now. Not to say that I wouldn't take support in the terms of public dollars. I think that will continue though at a state and local level. We got a $200,000 grant from the state of Arizona to expand our services to Phoenix and support implementation of our services there because it benefits the state of Arizona for us to reduce single-use trash. So opportunities like that will continue. I mean, we're on the right side of history. We're doing everything we can every single day to wake up and make the world a better place and do it in a way that fulfills us and, as individuals and as a team. So that's what we have to stay focused on. And if there's, I'm getting into my 40s now, and if there's any 4 years is going to go by fast. It's probably going to be painful, but it is going to go by, and then there will be change. We just have to work toward it, like put our actions to work beyond just saying words. And I think that has to be, I want to put a kind of a call to action out to folks that are focused on this and want to see change in the world. Like, please do your part to actualize it. And if that takes a little bit of sacrifice, like, I know it's not easy, but like we got to do it, y'all. We got to be here. We got to be here, making the change happen. So join me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
We're really excited to keep an eye on your journey and hopefully regroup at some point in the future and
No,
see
I'd love
how,
that.
how y'all are doing, especially with that franchising model idea. We'd love to dig into that too next
Sure. I
time.
would like to dig into it too if anybody knows how to do that. Lots
Another
to
call to
learn.
action.
But yeah.
Help bold reuse out. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great.